All right, so get ready because today we're diving deep into some really, uncharted territory. We've got a collection of articles and videos all about climate change, the usual, but with a twist. This time we're looking at perspectives that go beyond the typical headlines.
Beyond the data and straight into speculation and alternative theories.
You got it. And to kick things off, we're going to be focusing on this YouTube video. It's in Spanish, and it features Elena Martin, who's a hypnotist, and Calogero Grafasi, who presents himself as some kind of researcher.
And they're interviewing a woman named Lily while she's under hypnosis. And let me tell you, her take on climate change is definitely unlike anything I've ever heard before.
So let's unpack this a bit. In the video, they ask Lily about Earth's temperature like a century ago. And her response is, well, it's pretty startling. She claims the planet was artificially cooled back then by some external forces, almost as if someone just, I don't know, cranked down the global thermostat or something.
It is a pretty bold claim, for sure. And it definitely makes you wonder what kind of evidence could even support such an idea. I mean, we have temperature records that go back centuries.
Exactly. And what would even be the motive for such a massive manipulation of the climate?
Well, Lily suggests that Earth back then was dominated by, she calls it a reptilian and draconian energy. She kind of paints this picture of a planet in a colder, more controlled state, almost as if these entities preferred things, a bit more icy.
Okay, hold on. Reptilians. Are we talking lizard people here?
That's what's implied, yeah. Though, to be fair, the video never actually says exactly who these entities might be. But Lily does go on to describe this alleged cooling as a deliberate act, specifically to suppress human consciousness. She even mentions antennas, antennas being used to lower human vibration and limit our cognitive abilities.
Whoa, okay, so we're venturing into, full-on conspiracy theory territory now. Antennas controlling our minds and a planet-wide energy grid designed to keep us all in check. This is giving me some serious sci-fi vibes.
It certainly is, and I think it kind of taps into a very human fear. The idea that forces beyond our control might be shaping our lives, even our thoughts.
It's almost like a real-life matrix.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets even wilder. Lily claims that this energy grid, this thing that's been controlling us, it's gotten weaker recently, which is why we're seeing the planet warm up.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
That's a fascinating idea. On the one hand, we have the scientific consensus on climate change, caused by human activity, primarily greenhouse gas emissions. But on the other hand, we have this alternative narrative that suggests global warming is actually it's a natural correction, like a return to Earth's true temperature, as this supposed control grid breaks down.
So is she suggesting that global warming isn't actually a bad thing? It's actually a sign of our, I don't know, our collective awakening or something?
That seems to be her perspective, yeah. She links this weakening grid to, she says it's linked to a resurgence of human consciousness, implying that as this suppression fades away, our true potential is starting to emerge.
Okay, so we've got a conspiracy theory that goes way beyond just climate change now. We're talking about the potential control of humanity itself and a battle for our very consciousness. This is getting pretty intense. What do you think, listener? Are you starting to feel like you've fallen down the rabbit hole?
I think it's important to remember that we're dealing with one person's subjective experience under hypnosis. While Lily's account is certainly intriguing, it's crucial to approach it with, a healthy dose of skepticism and a desire to explore different viewpoints.
Absolutely. I mean, we're not here to endorse or debunk any of these claims. We're just here to explore them together and see, where this deep dive takes us.
Exactly. What I find most compelling is how Lily's narrative, even in its more unconventional aspects, how it reflects some very real anxieties about climate change, like the feeling that things are spiraling out of control.
It's like she's tapping into a collective unease, a sense that something's not quite right, and she's offering a dramatic and maybe somewhat outlandish explanation for it.
Right, and that explanation, as wild as it might seem, it resonates with the deep-seated desire for agency. For the ability to influence what happens instead of feeling like helpless bystanders.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It is empowering to think that we might have more control over our reality than we realize.
Yeah.
Even if that control is, currently being suppressed.
Exactly. So before we go any deeper into this, let's just take a step back for a second and consider the source. Hypnosis is a fascinating tool, but it's also, it's surrounded by a lot of controversy, especially when it comes to retrieving information.
That's a really good point. How much of what Lily is saying is based on actual events, versus just her own subconscious beliefs, or even like the influence of the hypnotist?
That's definitely a question worth considering. And even Kal Gergafasi, the researcher in the video, he cautions against taking everything from hypnosis sessions at face value. He emphasizes the need for, for critical thinking and independent verification, which I think is really key when we're dealing with such extraordinary
Was
claims.
basically saying don't just believe everything you hear, even if it comes from someone under hypnosis, which is probably good advice in general.
Absolutely. So as we continue exploring Lily's narrative, let's keep that healthy skepticism in mind.
Agreed. Okay, so to recap, we've established that the Earth was supposedly colder a century ago because of this planet-wide energy grid, controlled by, well, someone. And this grid is weakening now, allowing humanity's true potential to finally emerge.
Got it. But where do we go from here? Well, the video takes a really intriguing turn when Lily is asked about what she sees for the future, and her vision is, well, surprisingly optimistic.
Really? That's kind of unexpected. I mean, given everything she said about climate manipulation and control, you'd think she'd paint a pretty bleak picture, right?
You'd think so, yeah. But instead, she describes this future where humanity breaks free from all these constraints, and enters into a whole new era of harmony and abundance.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about this utopian vision.
Well, Lily claims that 50 years from now, Earth will be a completely different place. She describes a world where Earth's temperature has, stabilized and the planet is thriving. Like lush vegetation everywhere, abundant resources.
So a complete, like, 180 from the doom and gloom scenarios we usually hear about climate change.
Exactly. It's like she's offering this counter narrative to all the fear and despair.
It's almost like a collective sigh of relief, a glimpse into a future where we actually overcame these challenges and created a more sustainable world. But how does this transformation even happen? Um, does she explain how we get from this control grid to this, like, idyllic vision?
Well, that's where things get a bit more abstract. She doesn't really offer like a clear roadmap or a detailed plan. Instead, she focuses more on the idea of a shift in human consciousness.
Okay, so it's not about technological solutions or policy changes, but rather like a fundamental change in, in the way we think and relate to the world.
That seems to be the core message, yeah. She suggests that as this energy grid weakens and our awareness expands, we'll naturally tap into our innate abilities, to heal the planet and create a more harmonious existence.
So it's not just about the planet temperature changing, but also like our own internal temperature changing as well.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it, yeah. She envisions a future where humanity is no longer driven by fear, scarcity, or the need to control, but by a sense of interconnectedness and co-creation. It's a powerful vision, even if it is, a bit light on specifics.
It is. But it also raises some questions. For example, if this control grid is actually weakening, why would those in power be, like, ramping up their efforts now?
Yeah,
Wouldn't they be losing their grip?
that's a good point. It does seem kind of counterintuitive. But Lily suggests that they're fighting so hard to maintain control precisely because they sense this shift is happening.
So they're doubling down on their efforts, even if it means, like, pushing the planet to the brink.
It's like they're trying to, hold back the tide even though they know it's ultimately futile.
Wow, that's a pretty intense image. What does she say they're doing to maintain control?
Well, she kind of alludes to various methods, from, manipulating our food and water to using advanced technologies to disrupt our energy fields.
That sounds a bit vague. It seems like she's just throwing out all these, like, scary-sounding ideas without much concrete evidence. What do you think, listener? Are you starting to feel skeptical yet?
Skepticism is healthy, especially when we're dealing with, with such extraordinary claims. It's important to remember we're dealing with one person's subjective experience under hypnosis.
Right. We can't just take her word for it, no matter how compelling her story might be. But even if we set aside the specifics about, reptilians and energy grids and all that, there's still a thought-provoking question here. What if there are forces, whether they're, shadowy elites or something else entirely, that actually benefit from keeping humanity in a state of, like, fear and division.
That's a question worth pondering, for sure. Regardless of whether we buy into the whole, conspiracy theory angle, it's undeniable that there are systems in place that, that thrive on conflict and scarcity and a disempowered populace.
So maybe the real takeaway here isn't whether Lily's story is literally true, but what it reveals about, like, our collective anxieties and the ways in which those anxieties might be, I don't know, exploited.
I think that's a valuable insight, yeah. And to bring it back to the topic of climate change, how much of our inaction is driven by fear, you know? Sense of helplessness or a belief that the problem is just too big for us to solve.
And on the flip side, how might tapping into a sense of, like, collective power and interconnectedness, like what Lily describes, help us to, I don't know, to address the climate crisis in a more effective and meaningful way?
Those are really important questions.
Okay, so we've explored this idea of a controlled climate, the suppression of human potential, and this future where humanity breaks free from these constraints. But what about this whole free energy concept that Lily mentions? She talks about, like, ionic and photonic energy sources that are supposedly being suppressed. What's that all about?
That's another fascinating thread in her narrative, for sure. She claims that knowledge of these supposedly clean and abundant energy sources are being deliberately hidden from us.
It's like they're hiding the keys to a sustainable future right under our noses.
Right. And the reason, according to Lily, is that those in power want to, they want to maintain their control over our energy systems, keep us dependent on fossil fuels.
That's a classic conspiracy theory trope for sure.
Mm.
But it does, it does resonate with some real-world concerns about the influence of the fossil fuel industry.
Absolutely. Even if we don't buy into the idea of a deliberate cover-up, it's clear that there are powerful interests that might resist a rapid transition to renewable energy.
Right. There's a lot of money and power tied up in the status quo. So what does all this mean? Are we doomed to be like pawns in this cosmic game of climate manipulation and energy control? Or is there a way to break free from this narrative and create a more sustainable and empowering future for ourselves?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Lily seems to believe that the key lies in reclaiming our innate power as co-creators of our reality.
Okay, so we need to tap into this collective power, but how do we do that? How do we go from feeling like helpless victims to empowered co-creators?
That's where things get a bit more philosophical. Lily doesn't really provide a step-by-step guide or anything, but she does emphasize the importance of self-awareness, connection to nature, and a refusal to be controlled by fear and those limiting beliefs.
So it's about, like, waking up from this collective slumber and realizing that we have more agency than we've been led to believe.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual awakening, but about coming together as a collective, sharing our insights and supporting each other on this journey.
It's like a mass shift in consciousness, a collective realization that we're not just, cogs in a machine, but powerful creators of our own reality.
And that's a truly transformative idea, even if it is challenging to fully grasp or put into practice.
It is. But it also gives me hope. If we can tap into this collective power, then maybe, just maybe, we can turn things around and create a future that's not only, sustainable, but truly thriving.
It's a beautiful vision, and one that I think is worth striving for, even if the path ahead is a bit uncertain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of climate conspiracies and human consciousness, I want to leave you with a few final thoughts.
Please do.
We've explored some truly unconventional ideas today, and whether you find them, believable or not, I think there's value in stretching our imaginations and considering alternative perspectives.
I couldn't agree more. Sometimes those the most outlandish ideas can spark the most profound insights.
Exactly. So as you go about your day, I encourage you to, to look at the world with fresh eyes. Question the narratives you've been told. Trust your intuition. And remember, you might have more power to shape reality than you realize.
And who knows? Maybe, just maybe, we can collectively co-create a future that's even better than we ever imagined.
Thanks for joining us on this mind-bending exploration. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep questioning everything. It's a lot to process, right? Like this idea of a suppressed human potential, this controlled climate, and the possibility of, these alternative energy sources being out there.
Yeah, it's definitely a different perspective from what we usually hear in, like the mainstream discussions about climate change.
Totally. Instead of just focusing on, reducing emissions or adapting to a changing climate, Lily's narrative introduces this whole other layer of, like, complexity.
It kind of shifts the focus from those external solutions to internal transformations. Like, it's not just about changing our technology or policies, but about changing ourselves.
Yeah. And that's a really, well, it's empowering, but also kind of daunting, right? Like, if we really do have this innate power to influence reality, what does that even mean for our responsibility in addressing climate change?
That's a huge question, and I don't think there's an easy answer. But I do think Lily's story, it kind of invites us to at least consider the possibility that that our role in all of this might be, bigger than we realize.
So instead of feeling like, just victims of circumstance, we might actually be co-creators of our collective future.
Exactly. It's a shift from that mindset of like scarcity and limitation to one of abundance and potential. It's about recognizing that we're not just, passengers on this planet, but active participants in its evolution.
That's a powerful thought. But it makes me wonder, like, if we really do have this power, why aren't we seeing more evidence of it? I mean, we can collectively influence the climate. Why haven't we already, I don't know, like, turned things around?
That's where Lily's claims about this suppression come into play. She says, we've been conditioned to believe that we're powerless, that we're, separate from nature, and that our thoughts and intentions have no real impact on the world around us.
So it's like we've been, I don't know, like, programmed to disbelieve in our own power.
Yeah, that's what she suggests. She thinks these limiting beliefs have been instilled in us through a bunch of different ways, through our education systems, the media, and even just our cultural norms.
It's like this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like, if we believe we can't make a difference, then we won't even try.
And according to Lily, that's exactly what those in control want. They thrive on a disempowered populace that's, easily manipulated and controlled.
Okay, so let's say for a second that we entertain this idea of a suppressed potential. How do we even break free from those limitations? How do we, like, reclaim our power and start co-creating a better future?
Lily doesn't really give a concrete roadmap, but she does offer some clues. She really emphasizes the importance of self-awareness, critical thinking, and, connecting with our intuition. It's about questioning those narratives we've been told and trusting our own inner guidance.
So it's about, like, waking up from this collective slumber and realizing that we have, I don't know, like, more agency than we've been led to believe.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual awakening, but about coming together as a collective, sharing our insights and supporting each other on this journey.
It's like this mass shift in consciousness,
Hmm.
a collective realization that we're not just, like, cogs in a machine, but powerful creators of our own reality.
And it's a really transformative idea, even if it is a bit challenging to like fully grasp or put into practice.
It is, but it also, like, it gives me hope. If we can actually tap into this collective power, then maybe, just maybe, we can turn things around and create a future that's not only sustainable, but, truly thriving.
It's a beautiful vision and one that's definitely worth striving for, even if the path ahead is, a little uncertain.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of, climate conspiracies and human consciousness, I want to leave you with a few final thoughts.
Please do.
We've explored some pretty unconventional ideas today, and whether you find them believable or not, I think there's a lot of value in just, stretching our imaginations and considering these alternative perspectives.
I totally agree. Sometimes the most outlandish ideas can spark the most profound insights.
Exactly. So as you go about your day, I encourage you to, like, I don't know, just look at the world with fresh eyes. Question the narratives you've been told, trust your intuition, and remember, you might just have more power to shape reality than you realize.
And who knows, maybe, just maybe, we can collectively create a future that's even better than we ever imagined.
Thanks for joining us on this mind-bending exploration. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep questioning everything